expand and provide more job opportunities?
Ms. Hutto?
My number one priority has always been public education, improving the quality of public education. As we have struggled with our economy, however, creating jobs has become equally important to me. And as I said earlier, that's in part we will be doing that by holding the line on taxes. We know we can improve our schools by things like changing the funding formula, rewriting our charter school laws, a bill that I was a primary sponsor on, a bill that I, in fact, was on the working committee that drafted the legislation that would directly help James Island Charter High School, in which you're sitting right now. We've got to work to improve higher education, to support our universities. We want our best and brightest students to stay here, to become small business owners themselves, or to be the employees that the Boeings of tomorrow will want to employ when they come to South Carolina. Mr. McCoy.
Thank you. From the time I began running in this race, number one priority has always been jobs, jobs, and more jobs, getting people back to work. That's what everybody speaks of when I go to their door, and that's been the number one issue that I've run on this campaign. We need to have more incentives to hire people in these smaller businesses here on James Island and Fowler Beach. Another thing that I find is very important is to end the wasteful spending that's going on in Columbia. We have a current legislator that in 2009, the salary for a legislator is $10,400. In 2009, in incentives and substance packages and in-district spending received $32,044 last year, or in 2009, in the House legislature, making her the number one spending and paid Democrat in the state House legislature. We just can't have that. And another priority of mine is crime. As you know, crime is rampant right now on James Island. People do not feel safe in their own homes. Another thing that I would like to do once I get up there is there's a difference in a burglary first and a burglary second. Right now, burglary first is if you break into somebody's house at night, it counts for 2 strikes out of the 3 that you face when you go to jail. And you serve 85% of that time once you go to prison. These burglaries that are going on James Island right now are happening during the daytime. And I think these criminals know that. And I think what that means is it's a burglary second, which means that you were basically serving 33% of the time that you're allotted to by the judge, and it's not even a strike on your record. So that's a major issue and a major problem.
Thank you. For the next question, we will start with Ms. Hutto. Do you support nationalized health care?
There are some good things in the health plan, such as preventing people from getting kicked off their health care when they are sick, allowing kids to stay on their parents' insurance till the age of 26. However, we still desperately need health reform. The package we have right now will damage this state. Our state cannot afford the current health plan that we have. And quite frankly, it does nothing to control the cost of insurance and the cost of health care, and that's what's breaking the people of South Carolina and the people that I talk to. There are ways that we can improve health care without having a nationalized system. One of the things that I did during my time in Columbia was to sponsor a bill that required health insurance companies to leave people on their health insurance to cover their ongoing care if they entered into a cancer trial. This meant not only that people had incentives to enter into these trials, possibly prolonging their lives and allowing scientists to do good research, but it also enabled people to continue their care. Was this bill passed? No, it wasn't, because what happened was we worked out a bipartisan solution with Republicans and Democrats, the health insurance companies, MUSC, and the Hospital Association. These are the kind of solutions that I have brought to James Island and Fowler Beach. Bipartisan, broad-based solutions that don't involve me being able to say what I passed. It's about working for the people.
Mr. McCoy.
Do I support national health care in the state of South Carolina? Absolutely not. Our state cannot afford it. Our economy cannot afford it. Small jobs and businesses cannot afford it. They can't hire anybody if they have this type of precedent hanging over their head. So absolutely not.
Mr. Platt.
Many years ago, before my handsome son Paul was even born, his mom and his older sister and I were traveling on a vacation in Spain. We were on a train, and his mom rushed us to the hospital. They treated her, and the nurses were so wonderful. They even changed my dollar because I was too nervous to do it. And anyhow, my wife was stabilized. I took out my wallet to pay. They looked at me, and then they realized I was from America, and I expected to pay for health care. I think that the democracies of Western Europe have it right. When a person is sick or injured, they go to a hospital or some health clinic, whatever, and they get care. The problem with the approach we're taking in America is we try to incorporate insurance into our health care. And this is what has caused, I think, so much dissension in our country with regard to what has been derisively or affectionately referred to as Obamacare, that insurance is involved, and it's so much more complicated. If we could just follow the lead of our neighbor to the north, Canada, which has such wealthy citizens, and just having a national single-payer system would work much better.
Thank you. Now we will start with Mr. McCoy. Should tax dollars be used to support private school vouchers?
I think when we're talking about education, what we need to do is, first and foremost, is talk about the child. Each child is different when it comes to education. People come from different backgrounds. People are raised in different ways. People have different needs. Each individual child has different needs. And I think that's the most important question we need to ask ourselves when it comes down to talking about school choice. We're talking about tax credits to go towards the school. When it comes down to discussing that, basically what it comes down to is that we have $11,372 that are allotted to each child in our state legislation. We get 40 cents on the dollar actually makes it to each child. The national average is 65 cents on that dollar. There's a lot of money being pumped into it, and half of it comes from the state level, half of it comes from the local level, and some of it comes from the federal level. And what we need to sit here and think about is how much money will leave that school when a child leaves and wants to change schools for school choice. We need to sit here and account for that and see how much is spent. But when it comes down to it, I think we have to put the child's needs first. But I think the education at home, it begins with parents. It begins with parents being able to have a choice and being able to engage in that child's education.
Mr. Platt.
As I said in my brochure, anyone wanting one can get one from Paul after the program, or just look at my website, www.bookplatt.com. Eugene is a strong supporter of public education, advocating full funding by the state. However, he respects the right of parents to choose private education at their own expense. There might be a point in the future, I can't even guess what it might be, it's not now, when we'd have excess money for education, and it would be appropriate to make vouchers available for private school education, but we're certainly not there now. I'm a product of the public schools of this state. Went to the public schools of St. Andrews, and then after 3 years in the Army, earned this beautiful University of South Carolina ring. My late wife married, and her sisters went to Bishop Edmond. The father, who worked at the Navy Yard at a time when Navy Yard workers were not paid very much, they made sacrifices because they felt that rural education was important for their daughters. But they never expected to get any funding from the public for that. It was something that they made a free choice to do, and I commend people who want to make the choice that they should look to the public right now to help them.
And Ms. Hubbard.
Right now, we are funding public education at 1995 levels. We cannot afford to send our county's hard-earned tax dollars to private academies, which is what vouchers would do. We have to fully fund public education in this state. I've worked hard to support public schools in